guys, welcome to episode 9 and or episode 9.5 of Sports and Stuff. If you're coming in from listening to the sports side of this podcast, welcome. If this is how you're going to start the podcast experience, or if this is all you're going to listen to, welcome to you as well. Riley and I, Riley, hey.
Hey.
We're here in Chapel Hill, and we were thinking about, how we can better the podcast for our listeners. And not to draw stereotypes, but it seems that our mainly female fan base, or listenership, I should say, really preferred listening to our stuff section, while our male fan base really enjoyed the sports section, and some of our listeners would cut it off halfway through or fast forward through half of it. So we said, let's make it easier on people, and we'll just release 2 different cuts, and if people want to listen to both, they can listen to both.
Absolutely. And not set in stone, we're trying this out and love some feedback via
Twitter. At Sports and Stuff. SP0RTS, the letter N, and the word stuff. We're getting pretty good at that. It's kind of a staple of the show. So today in our stuff topic, we're going to talk about university in the United States of America. Namely in North Carolina, because that's our experience, and we don't want to speak beyond our scope of experience.
Facts.
So, I personally, if you're a friend of mine, I've probably gotten into this with you. Riley just downed an entire glass of water, and he gulped louder than I was talking. So, if you're a friend of mine, you've heard my critiques of university. If not, here I am to share them with you. So, a little insight into my academic history. I went to a public high school, really public school up until junior year of high school, where I was, not the model student. I didn't really care. And I thought that I was hot shit, and teachers couldn't tell me what to do. Really, a little asshole, if we're being honest. My senior year, I go to a private school.
A little one.
Just a little one. Not a major asshole. Didn't do anything too bad, but I thought I was hot shit. And senior year, I go to play football at a local private school, because I'm just an athletic god. I was at least the 10th best player on that team. And, I willed us to a state championship loss. So it really paid off for the school that they let me go there. But that's where I got a little bit more serious about my education. I think a lot of that was the atmosphere that this school provided. I'll give a plug to it, Arundel Parrott Academy in Kinston, North Carolina. That's where Riley went to school.
Yup.
That's where I met Riley.
Yup.
And that's the friendship has blossomed.
Yes.
So at Parrott, there's a very strict mindset, and it's one that I'm sure that my public school friends are foreign to. So this concept of everyone working, like, for instance, if you come into school and you have not done your homework, rather than, my public school experience is, hey, did you do your homework? No. Oh, man, me neither. Classic. Let's find a nerd and get their answers. At Parrott, or this private school, this college preparatory academy, they say, hey, man, did you do your homework? And I was like, no. And they're like, why not? And everyone else had done their homework, and I said, well, I guess I better get my stuff together, because if you don't do your work there, everybody thinks you're an idiot, which you are, low key. So then I realized that, maybe school was important, and it opened my eyes a little bit to that the ways that not being educated could really screw you up.
Essentially, it was the cool kids were the kids that tried in school. Well, at least, I don't know, it made you...
Actually, I disagree with that experience, just because everyone tried, but you got dumped on if you didn't try.
I guess I'm just saying, like, the stereotype is, oh, if you try, you're a nerd, you're not cool. I'm saying Parrot was kind of different in the fact that, like, if you tried hard, like, you weren't a nerd.
You were expected to try hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go on.
So then I go and I say, well, the 18-year-old Adam said, well, I need to go to college. But if I went to college now, it wouldn't be at a school that is prestigious as my classmates. There was my class had 59 people in it. I think 15 of those 60 got into UNC Chapel Hill. Our valedictorian went to Harvard. Our salutatorian went to Columbia. We had a Park Scholar, and we had some people that were up for the Moorhead Scholarship, and they didn't get it. But I was like, okay, I could go to, not to, crap on UNC University, but I could go to the likes of UNCW or ECU, or, I could save money, stay home, and go to community college. And that was a pretty mature line of thinking for stupid me, but it's what I did. And I saved money for 2 years, and I worked my butt off academically and, otherwise to save money to go to university. And I was lucky enough to get accepted into the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where I came, and I'm about to graduate in May. Congratulations to me. I'm very proud of myself. But the reason I'm proud of myself is because of the work I put in, not necessarily like the journey that it's been, not necessarily the fact that I've taken part in this system of education in the United States. And what I mean by that is the principle that every student, to be successful and to end up with a successful lifestyle, supporting yourself in a manner that is above the poverty line, requires you to obtain a higher learning degree. And this is for people across almost all professions besides blue-collar professions, where even then you have to go and get your certifications, which is, I would argue, is a smarter decision than people who come to university and get degrees in nothing. But nonetheless, there are young people, 18 years old, pressured into going to a university and getting a degree in literally anything. There's no talk of, finding your passion and chasing that and getting experience in your passion so that you can be happy and successful and make money doing something that you love. It's here, go. And most people say, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to try to get into a high return profession like medicine, like law. But most people get to university and they say, I don't like science. I'm pre-med, but I hate science. And I'm pre-law, but I hate history. And, they go and they end up in random majors like, not to crap on women's studies, but people get into programs like women's studies and African American history, where there are professions in that, but they are few and far between, and they certainly do not provide the sort of lifestyle that people who go starting pre-med and starting pre-law desire. And my argument is, should we not offer programs to allow students that are coming up, that are about to become adults, so in high school, should we not offer programs that allow people to find what they want to do rather than making a mandatory criteria for what you have to take? Saying, oh, you have to, if you want to go to this university, if you want to get into the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, which is, top 3 school in the state, you have to take 9 APs. That's the standard. The average acceptance is 7 AP classes, and we don't care what it is. We don't care if you hate math, you better take AP statistics. We don't care if you hate English, you better take AP Lit. We aren't fostering an education of passion, and I think that's wrong. We're fostering a society that pushes children to make the decision when they're 17 or 18 to take on $40,000 in debt to go chase something that they don't know that they want, and they've been told that they have to do things they hate to be happy, which is a falsehood. Granted, this is the one critique to my critique that I think is fair. College offers a 4-year span for children to turn into adults, to go from it's a halfway house between living with your parents to living on your own. I think that is the best thing about college is the maturity that comes through it. But I don't agree with the fact that I have to come to a university, and I'm lucky. I have parents that help me financially. They don't help me with everything, but they do what they can. And 2 of my schooling years were paid for by the school at Wayne Community College. So I'm going to graduate with about $10,000 in debt, and I am on, the very, very low end of what people. I know a lot of my friends are going to be graduating with upwards of $60,000 in debt, and they're just undergrads.
Average undergrad debt is $35,000.
There you go. So, and we don't offer alternate routes for kids. We say you go to high school, you go to college, you get a degree, and then you get a job. But we don't foster, a love for learning. We don't foster, the thought process that we should be chasing what we like rather than what people say that we should like. And I think that's wrong. And forcing kids to make the mature decision to spend $40,000+, I think it's immoral. And I think that, I just think that we can do better as a society harboring learning and pushing people in the right direction rather than just throwing them out like a mother bird to her chicks.
Yeah, so I agree. The system it wastes money and it wastes time. The first 2 years, you weren't at a university your first 2 years, but the first 2 years of college, I would argue you literally just waste your tuition.
Well, and that's I agree with you because you're taking general education courses, and that's what I was doing at community college. I was getting my associate's degree that would negate my general education courses at university. But the fact that I had to spend 2 years, and this is what people don't know, and I'm lucky because I got to go and do that for free. But there are people who come to prestigious universities. God forbid you go to a private school.
Duke.
Like Duke or Wake Forest, or is Davidson private?
Yes.
Even, heck, there's Wesleyan, there's there's lots of private schools. Wofford. For your first 2 years to be the almost exact same content that you're going to get for free or close to free at a community college. The only difference is you're going to be in a village of people your age, which is beyond fun. I'll give it that. College can be fun, but it's also stressful, and it puts a lot of pressure on classes that aren't necessary. I would argue that if it weren't for the society that we live in, and that employers across America have decided to put weight on a bachelor's degree, that I'm in the sports administration field where you almost always have to work your way up. If I would have spent the 4 years that I have spent pursuing this degree, working full-time in the industry, by the time I'm 22, when I enter the industry, I will be further ahead and more qualified for other jobs. The only thing that's going to make me more qualified is the sheet of paper that I worked 2 years of nothing to do with it. Like I had to take psych and biology and calculus and stuff like that to, sell things. And if it weren't for the thought process that I have to have that degree, then I would, I'd be a better professional. And I think that there are things like, doctors have to go to school. Lawyers have to go to school. But the premise that, capitalism in our society has given it to where corporations don't have to pay to train their employees. They're going to make their employees go into debt to train them for a job that they should be getting paid to do. I think that if I want to join an industry, I should be able to join it. I should be able to get trained based on I should be judged on my past work experience And, beyond that, there's nothing else that I should, be judged on. I think that I should be trained and paid for my training rather than to pay to be trained.
Right. I agree to a point there. The only thing is, how do you differentiate if there's no system at all? I agree the system's flawed, but I agree that rather than just eradicating it completely, that there has to be some kind of new, better, less expensive, more efficient system.
Well,
because if everyone just comes out of high school, what you're going to have is everybody is looking, and I get like you got to work your way up, but then everyone's looking to work your way up. And then is there enough jobs for everyone with no qualifications? Like, how do employers hire? How do you know that you're going to be good? There has to be some kind of something you have to do to prove yourself.
I agree with you, and I'm not arguing that education should be eradicated. I'm arguing the opposite. I think that education should be streamlined into
I like apprenticeship programs.
Right.
Have you heard of those?
Yes, I've heard of apprenticeship programs where we should be teaching students by the time they're 18. We should have a student should have molded themselves into someone who knows what they want to do. I'm not saying that you have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life, because I don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life. But coming out of high school, I had no clue even what industry I wanted to be in. And the reason I didn't know is because I didn't have any experience in anything, because I was being force-fed English, math, science, and history, and that's it.
I get the broadness of education, like when you're, I don't know, really young in your maybe early teens, like you gotta learn like how to speak, you gotta learn like how to grammatically write, you gotta learn how to add numbers. But once you get really past freshman year, sophomore year of high school, you have those basics pretty well sought out.
Yeah.
You should start to somehow be exposed to the different options you're going to have, the different fields there are, so that when you get to college, you don't spend your first 2 years taking these bullshit general education classes, but you can't just take specific classes right off the bat either, because you don't know what you want to do.
Right.
So it's just streamlining it earlier. Ideally, hey, you're in high school, you get some kind of exposure to, basically you skip 4 years. The last 2 years of high school, you're just taking higher level classes of every single subject. Mm-hmm. Instead of doing that, skip the first 2 years of college where you're going like back to high school and taking higher level classes of every single subject, but they're low level classes in terms of the college's classes. So it's like you restart kind of.
Right.
Skip those 4 years, cut them out, those last two and first two, and take what the last 2 years of college that you're learning. Because I just started at Keenan Flagler Business School for my first semester.
Congratulations.
Thanks. This semester, I have learned more about what I actually want to do in my industry than it's been, 2 months, than I learned in the first 5 semesters that I was here. Like, so much more. And everything I do is like, it's interesting. Like, I want to go to class. I have to go to class because I take attendance. But I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to go to class and talk about this because I can really directly relate this to what I want to do and directly relate this to just the world in general.
Well, yeah. And what's crazy is, like, so many people grow up thinking that they hate school and they hate learning. But it's just that you're not learning what you want to learn. And I really believe that. Because, I was someone who came through and I despised school. Like, as a junior in high school, I didn't really want to go to college. The only reason I was going to go is because I knew that I had to. Because, if you want to get a job, you have to. And that's something my parents have always said. And I think it's true. But I was someone who hated school. But then when I get into something that I'm interested in and I get excited about it and I want, like, I'm gobbling up information, I'm reading articles on my own for fun, and I'm excited to go to class. That wasn't a change in my character. That was a change in the content that I was being fed. I think that every person has the potential to be, successful. I think I'm not someone that thinks that some people haven't and some people don't. I just think that, everybody looks at things a different way. And, as an educational society, we have failed and appealing to people who don't see things the one way that we have prescribed education.
Here's I guess my proposed solution in a broad sense. So you get through sophomore year of high school, you have your broad subjects that you've taken at this point, some form of calculus, some form of algebra, some form of geometry. At this point, you've taken some form of, probably a lot of forms of English. You've read some of the like most important books or whatever. What are the other subjects? Science. Like you've learned like the basics of science, like that you need to know just to like know, like you just need to know what the body is made of, like just like stuff like that. You've learned the basics of every subject. Instead of AP classes, which is kind of their way of trying to expose us to different industries, instead of AP classes, which are just basically like, hey, we're going to take these subjects and make them a lot harder and more complicated. What if it was, hey, instead of taking 9 APs, your junior year, you need to go out and shadow at 5 different companies. Or you need to, and that's like provided by the school. Like that's going to class. Like on Mondays, you are at, you're in a hospital shadowing a doctor. And Tuesdays, you're at the local like sports team, like the Wood Ducks shadowing. And like if you don't show up, then that affects your grade. If like you don't take anything seriously, then like you get in trouble for that. But like essentially you just gotta show up and listen, and then maybe you get tasks maybe a month in, like, okay, you're at the Wood Ducks, we want you to analyze these stats. You've seen a month of how we do this, start it, how they kind of see how well you do, and you get a letter grade off of that.
Right.
And then you still have the same GPA system, so colleges can still judge you. Right. The SAT needs to be completely thrown away, in my opinion. But
I got away with never taking the SAT, so I can't.
but and then that way, by senior year, you've probably been exposed to like 9-10 different industries. It all depends where your town is too. There might be on different levels. Like if you're from where we are, it's not like you're gonna be able to go shadow some corporate like crazy thing. But like in general, there's at least gonna be 8, 9, 10 different industries for a town to exist, and you can certainly shadow those. And by junior senior year, you should know, hey, I really like this one and I really hated this one. Yeah. So then you take care of not having to take those first 2 years of college. Maybe they're still college, but it's 2 years, and it's just those last 2 years. And in terms of the expense of college, I don't know if we'll ever be able to get it down, but if you cut it in half, it's pretty good. Yeah. And you feel a lot more value of your money going into something you're passionate about. Right. Because I can already tell these next 3 semesters at Keenan Flagler are going to be really important for me. They're going to give me a lot of knowledge in my field that I go into that I wouldn't have had. So it's not like I say, well, if I hadn't gone to school, I would have learned way more. I've learned a lot working in the professional world that is way more valuable than a lot of the stuff I've learned in school. But I can tell these next 3 years I'll learn a lot of stuff that will help me in my profession as well. So if we can get to a point where it's that kind of schooling for a shorter period of time, combined with experience in the workplace, that's our education system. Yeah.
Well, I got
get there a lot earlier.
I wanted to make 2 points. One thing, I think that would be an outstanding upgrade to the system that we have right now. I gotta say that I do think that there is, at least in high school, there's way too much emphasis put on GPAs. I know that there are high schoolers that are literally out there killing themselves to, have a competitive GPA. They're taking so many classes they hate, and they're making themselves do it, and they're doing volunteer hours out the wazoo, and they're not, having fun. They're not doing anything that, a 17 or 18-year-old should be doing. They're not going to any parties. They're just, on the weekends, they're volunteering and stuff like that. And all that is great. It's character building. But I think that, we need to destigmatize failure as a first thing. If someone gets ambitious and they take AP stats and they say maybe I'm gonna like math, then they don't do so hot, and they make a C in it. They try their best and they make a C in it. I mean, that can kill that kills the confidence of someone who's trying to get into a place like this.
Right, but how do you know which students are trying, and how do you know which...
I mean, that's very fair, and that's something that has to be figured out. But I just don't think that. I think that standardized testing is a pressure packed, but I think it's a much better way of maybe telling. You know, it puts a lot of weight on one grade, but I think it's better than, every class you have to make an A in.
I disagree with that.
Yeah?
I really do not like standardized testing.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's fair. There's a lot of people
who
who really.
If it was standardized testing, I probably wouldn't have gotten Carolina if that's all they cared about.
That's fair. Maybe there's an interview system then. I don't.
I would love an interview system.
I don't have the answers. I just think that there's so much weight put on grades, and grades just aren't that important. And they're important because we've decided they're important. That's the only reason they are. And I don't know. It's really frustrating.
The issue where it comes down to the reason why grades are a thing is, yes, because we said they're important, but we had to pick something.
Yeah.
They had to have some kind of differentiation. There's
Yeah.
no way employers would be, you have to be able to sort them out. And you can sort them out by experience, but then
Everybody starts with zero experience.
yeah, everyone starts with zero experience. So you got to figure, there's got to be some kind of differentiation. And, we gotta figure that out, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's not. I don't like the system we have now. I feel like it's really inefficient from both a dollar standpoint and a time standpoint. It's really inefficient, and it really turns people away from it. They don't like it. I also think we should, honestly, there should be a little bit of consolidation in majors, meaning there's too many. That's why your problem. There's we want to search around everyone to find, but in terms of majors, if we're gonna stick with this college system, we're gonna have majors. Then you can't have all these different majors when they don't even have an actual market for the major. The point of going to college is supposed to be get your major and go work in that industry.
Right.
As a university, if you're making a major that literally has no market or a really, really thin one, then that should just be incorporated into another major industry, so that it doesn't it sets up the students for failure.
And it's okay to
It's
take
be
classes.
passionate about it.
Yeah, and I think the minor system is awesome, where you can just for fun. I'm a history minor because I think history is interesting.
Yeah.
But there's no if you don't want to be a history teacher or work in a museum, you're not doing much as far as history goes. I don't know. I know we're running out of time a little bit.
Yeah.
And that I really just kind of wanted to air that grievance. We don't have the answers, but if we do have young listeners, and there's anyone out there who's really stressing and they don't know what they're doing with their life, may I offer you some of the best advice I was ever given, and really what made me decide on the sports administration track that I'm on now. If you want to be successful in life and you want to be happy in your career, it's a simple formula. You take something that you're talented at, you take something that you're passionate about, and you add education to it. So you take something that you're talented at and passionate about, you find a nice program. It doesn't, you don't have to go to Duke, you don't have to go to Wake Forest, you don't have to go to Carolina. If what you're passionate about is making something with your hands, and you find yourself really talented with welding, go to your local community college, get a degree in welding, get your certification, and join the workforce. If that's what you like doing, no one's better than you. No one's gonna, everyone wipes their own ass, and everyone's got to put food on the table. So you should never be embarrassed of your passions. You should always chase them. And, education is important. And whether it's because society has told us it is or because we personally believe it, you have to get your education. So take what you're talented at, passionate about, add some education to it, and I promise you that you'll find yourself happy at the other end.
I agree.
Well, guys, there's a deeper episode than most, but we hope you liked it. We hope you like this format. Please give us some feedback on Twitter at Sports and Stuff, SP0RTS, the letter N and the word stuff. The sports section is a little bit more lighthearted. So if you haven't given it a listen, it'll be posted right next to this one. And we hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
So have a good one.